So we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. I'm just absolutely so excited for tonight. You guys are going to hear from one of my best friends in the business, my accountability partner for gosh, I feel like since I was like triple diamond, maybe even sooner. I can't remember. But I'm just so excited for you guys to hear from Mira Denning. She's Presidential Diamond, soon to be Ambassador Diamond. And I just am absolutely so excited for so many reasons for you guys to hear from Mira. But one of the main reasons is because I feel like Mira just has just like so many unique gifts and unique strengths that you don't find in a lot of people that you hear from on a regular basis. And I know that you guys are just going to absolutely soak up everything she has to say and learn so much from her. But Mira, if you're able to unmute yourself, do you want to go ahead and just get started with telling everybody your story?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. So I am, like Brittany said, I'm a presidential diamond. But like so many people, I joined this business really for, $500 to $1,000. And I joined March of 2015. So I've been in about 4.5 years. And if you had looked at me back then, you would have basically thought I kind of had it made. I did go to law school, and then I kind of switched. I was a healthcare lawyer. I switched over to the corporate side and was in kind of a big healthcare system up here in New England. Climbed up the corporate ladder, was a vice president, and you would have never thought I'd be doing network marketing, and I didn't think that either. But my life behind the scenes was really, really messy. My now ex-husband but my husband at the time had started a business in our early 30s, and it just never took off. So I was kind of drowning in debt, but really honestly, all of my 30s. So by the time I found this business at 38, I had many, many years of like accumulating like hundreds, 6-figure debt. And we were basically taking my income to support a 2-income lifestyle because his business didn't take off, and to support his business. So I was in a really, really rough spot financially, but also emotionally when I started the business. And I mean, this story, I could tell the long version, but I won't tonight unless it becomes relevant. It may become relevant. But the long story short is that really caused me to join. I had a friend that was doing the business. I watched her forever, and then finally kind of reached my own breaking point in my own life. So I joined her, and within 4 weeks was Diamond, 4 weeks was Ruby, 4 months was Diamond, and 12 months was Double. And my goal had really been Double. And so I knew, once I got in and I hit that Ruby and got that $500 a month, I was like, okay, I want to go to Double. Because if I could get like $5,000 a month, like that would just like change everything, pay down debt. So that was really my vision when I started, totally to have it be a side income. I think maybe because I kind of had that ceiling on my vision, I never quite got to a strong double during that phase of my business. So I was really honestly largely paid as Diamond for my first 3 years. And I was okay with that. I was making, I'm a strong distributor enroller. So I was making strong Diamond pay. I was making $3,000 a month quite often. And it was a side income for me, and it allowed me to pay off the debt and get our mortgage back on track. And I went through a divorce during that period, pay for, all the legal bills, not have to worry about childcare. I actually became a single mom in 2017 officially. And so all of that was done without stress because of this business, while also working 50 hours a week on average at my corporate job. And it was, it was crazy, but it was fine with me. I was very, very happy with where things were. For me, everything changed though when my divorce went final. So my divorce went final the 3rd week of August of 2017. And within 2 weeks, they had the first corporate event ever in Portland, Maine, which is where I'm based. And Mary Beth Dodd came. I'd never met her before. She's, as many of you know, the field development director. And they just threw on a killer event. And there was, 150 people there. But we've never done anything like that in Portland before. And it just really changed everything for me. I was on a stage for the first time, and kind of like, wow, I could really handle all of that. And Mary Beth and I really connected. She started pouring into me. I didn't really have a functional upline, so she really kind of took that role on at that point, and started also once she got me to know me pretty well, she started challenging me in a good way as well. So long story short, and then there was another event in Nashville that same month. So I went to two like very pivotal events in 1 month, and it was right after my divorce when I had a lot of clarity and come in and toxicity leave. And so I basically made a decision by the end of that month that I'm going to push as hard as I can to triple. Now, remember, at this point, I was paid as a week diamond. I'd never even hit 30,000 GV. And for triple at that time, it was really like you needed to hit the 50,000 GV. Like that was kind of expected that you're going to be maintaining. So it was my second wild dream in the course of my business so far at that point. But I just started working really hard, you guys. I can talk a little bit about that phase if it helps. Had a myopic vision. I was working full time still, but I just said, I am going to get triple. I'm going to figure it out. And I had a very strong reason. I wanted to basically free up completely so that I could make decisions and be around more for Canby, my son, because a lot of my job, between my job and It Works, I wasn't seeing him, that much, and missing, missing stuff that he was starting to hit as a 4-year-old that he wasn't dealing with when he was 1 and I first started. So, karate classes and sports things and things like that. So I just pushed really hard for 6 months. And here's the thing, like sometimes you just have to have blind faith. And I just went through a period of complete freaking blind faith that I would work like a mad woman, get 5 hours of sleep, juggle all this craziness, and it would work out. And I set a goal for myself to hit the steps to success 4 times a month. Didn't always hit it, but was always pushing for that. And I think because I was on fire, I brought in newbies that were really excited. Like my energy shifted, and then I had one leg that was strong, and they got more excited because I was more excited, and they knew I was running for triple. They wanted to go double. So long story short, I had triple in 6 months, and I had blind faith that whole time it was going to happen, and it did happen. Nobody at that point really knew who I was in the company. It's so funny because now, people that come onto my team, they're new and they assume that it's always been this way. I'm like, no, my first 3.5 years, guys, nobody freaking knew who I was. And it's fine. Like, I don't mind. Like, that was where I was at. But it just shows you guys, like, I don't care where you are, like things can change on a dime. It's all about your brain. Right. So that, hitting triple in March 2018 led me to kind of surpass to surpass my corporate income. So I was making, strong 6-figure salary with It Works. And I was at a point in time where like being a triple diamond is almost like, it's a full-time job if you're doing it right. So I was like, I think I'm going to, this is crazy now. I think I'm going to, again, roll the dice a little bit and retire from corporate life. So I want you guys, because I don't know that everybody knows how old I am. So I was 41 last year when I made this decision. So I've been building my career for 18 years. So it was a really, really big decision to walk away from it. Of course, I could always go back and get another job. That's what Cammie told me at the time. She's like, you can always go back and get another job, but you don't know where this could go if you're full time. And Brittany and I have similar work ethics. So yes, I retired from corporate life, but I didn't really chill out. I just was able to work my business more during the day when Cammie was at school. So now I have much more like intentional family time, or, kind of when he's home until he goes to sleep, which is awesome. It's an awesome benefit if you build it up to this point in time. You do get freedoms and options that you're paying for investing for that first period of building. So that's kind of been my life for the last year. And I've still Brittany knows I've still gone through awesome ups and promoting to Presidential and promoting my dad, who obviously not working in the business, to triple diamond in September 2018, to some lows. I went through more custody fights this spring, and it kind of threw me off, and had some other crazy stuff going on. So, and now I'm back kind of on the kind of, more hot trajectory, just feeling really good about the business and our team right now. So, that you don't avoid that even when you climb the ranks. But like I said, I hit Presidential in September, and it's just been a beautiful year. For 13 months now, I made 5 figures every month, and I just count my blessings. But again, guys, I started from nothing. No, if you look on my social media when I started, and sometimes those posts circulate my memories, I first of all, wasn't using social media at all when I started. So I have people come into my team and they're like, I'm not on social media. I'm like, don't worry, neither was I. We'll help you ramp up. I hadn't tried the products. I'm a green. We're going to talk about that. I've got strong green propensities. So normally I would have to research like everything from here to Sunday if I follow that part of my personality. But I just got going. We'll talk about that. But long story short, the cool thing about my story just shows that you're not stuck no matter where you are in your business at any point in time. So I'll stop there, Britt, but tell me kind of what would help to talk more about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that so much. And like so much of what you said is like what we're going to get into. And so I just love that you kind of like laid the groundwork for like questions people had. One thing you mentioned is like you talked about how in the beginning what it was like being crazy busy, working 2 jobs, but then you mentioned now you have like freedoms that you never would have, you never could have possibly had in that old environment. And I think so many people, like we all have heard the term short-term sacrifice, long-term gain. But I think for so many people, that is like what holds them back is they just can't see how that sacrifice is going to get them to that. And so like what helped you in those moments when you literally were, like you said, sleeping 5 hours a night, you were working a busy corporate job and also working this business while being a single mom? Like, how did you push through that, like knowing that it was going to be worth it where you are now?
Yeah. Well, I think that, you come in and you've got to start with wherever you're at that time. So if somebody's coming in for $500 a month versus somebody coming in for $5,000 a month, it's just a different start point. And so where you start, that vision for yourself is going to drive your work ethic. Somebody that comes in for $5,000 a month is going to have usually a stronger work ethic and be like, okay, what do I need to do to get there? But for me, so once you get to those bigger numbers, well, let me say one other thing. You might start for 500, and that my story is very much a proof of that. That may change within a year or 2, 3 years, whatever it is. So, but when you get to that point where you have big goals, but you're facing like crazy mom life and crazy work life, like the biggest things that always have helped me was, one, because I have that green red mix. I am very disciplined about like, when is my intentional at work time? I've always been that way. I never took a day off. It wasn't even I never had that thought, Brittany, that I would even take a day off. And I mean, even in the beginning, like it just wasn't an option. I think in part because I loved it, and part because I needed the money so bad when I started. And once I got going and I had a team, and that wasn't overnight, you guys, like it wasn't like I had this magical team in 2 weeks. But once I was 5, 6 months in and had a real team, I felt also obligated to them. And I knew that if I worked hard, they were going to follow suit. If I was off watching Bravo and eating potato chips, probably they were not going to be working their business. So I think all those things kind of played a role into my mindset. But I would say that some intangible things that have helped me, I've always been a huge events person, and people are all over the map on this. Like even on my team, there's some amazing diamond leaders that have never been to a national event. But I'll tell you that like I made both of the first cruises. Actually, the first cruise in 2015 was my first event. That was huge. And then conference, the next year. And then I kind of got plugged into the normal at work schedule. But I'd also go to smaller events in Nashville, like I mentioned, or Grand Rapids. So now we have all the green carpets that sometimes are different places, or that. For me, guys, that's where my vision expanded, because I really didn't have an upline to help me. I didn't have a brain cell like around what network marketing was. Like I had nothing that would tell me what my potential was other than events. And so for me, that's really what laid the groundwork, Brittany. Like it kind of planted the seeds that would germinate later when I was otherwise ready for a bigger push, that there was something more out there. So by the time I worked a double. And I do believe diamond and double is very possible when you're working a full-time job. I've just seen it so many times. It's all about mindset, but it's very doable. When you're talking about VIP, that is obviously like in a more exclusive push. But I know for me, I had to go through my first 3 years to get ready for that. That's the other thing I'll say. And that's why I think people sometimes quit so early on themselves, not knowing what possibly could be around the corner that they're getting prepared for, that something's germinating in their head. And I know that's exactly what happened to me. The seeds were getting planted. Every event I went to, when I saw super normal people making $10, $15, $20,000 a month. So that was huge for me. I didn't really come into personal development until after I hit VIP, but that's been huge for me this year. When I've gone into funks, personal development in combination with events always pulls me out. So I think that's huge now. But for me, it was always like, you got to go see what the potential is in the company, or you're not even going to know what you want to do with it, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it just kind of goes back to like, you have to stay close to the fire. Like, if you stay close to the fire, you can't help but like, it becomes contagious. But I think so often that is like, we have that lid on ourselves, even if we don't realize it. And if we can get around just the right person who can say that one thing that, you know, makes that light bulb go off, it really can change everything. So just love that you touched on that. You mentioned, okay, so obviously you already shared that you are a super green personality, and you mentioned that you normally are the type that has to research everything. But you said that I heard you say two different things. You said, but you didn't, you jumped in and you just went for it. But then you also shared that there was a period you just decided you were going to operate solely under blind faith. What would you share to other people on the team who either are solely green or have a lot of green in them, and that, you know, maybe is something that holds them back sometimes, like they just, you know, constantly getting ready to get ready, or, you know, always trying to make sure they know everything? Like, what would you just kind of speak to, you know, people who definitely can relate to that?
Yeah. And so this is a huge topic for me because, you know, I also attract a ton of greens on my like either as their primary or secondary color. And so I've seen it a lot in other people. And I know for myself, I've definitely gotten stuck in this business because of my green. So I think, you know, look, we get through like, I say the first thing for greens is we're very analytical, right? So we're constantly asking questions. And what I would challenge you to do, this is what I do with my own team, is let's ask questions. Like, let's ask really good, thoughtful questions, but let's ask the right questions. So, you know, as opposed to a lot of greens folks, we will reflect on the past or we'll sit in the present. And so we might say, well, you know, this was working before, blah, 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 and just really think about that a lot. Or the present, like, here's where I am. I'm stuck now. This is what's going on now. And then the future is just because it's unknown, you can't hold on to it. But I would challenge you guys to ask yourself this question and then take action. So the question that I have my greens really ask is not, you know, this happened or that happened or why it happened, but what can I do better and what can I start today that can activate on change? Okay. And so what can I do better, as opposed to saying I'm stuck and kind of sitting in the stuck, is a progress question. And it forces people, like, you know, we'll make a list. You know, if greens, we like our list, right? What can I do better? And you might have 3 or 4 things. Now you still have to take the action, right? You still have to take the action. But I think by instead creating a forward plan, that can be better. I mean, sorry, that can get you out of being stuck. So that's the first thing that we do. We kind of change the questions that people are asking and not just sitting. The other thing that, you know, I'll say, like, that we work on a lot is really, you know, if they have red in particular, just triggering what their goals are or their vision. And I will tell you, this is something that sometimes I have struggled with. So when I was first pushing for ambassador this spring, you guys, like, I literally, like, we had people like Ashley Mayfield, our friend, was going from, you know, like 100K to 250K BV in like a month and a half. Okay. Growth that is crazy growth. But in my green brain, I'm like, there is no way I'm taking this team to 100,000 to 250,000. Like, I don't know how I can do that. And it actually, I swear to goodness, that because of that thinking, and it was pervasive in that period, I think that's one of the reasons I did not go ambassador. I could not get myself to believe it. And so one of the things that you have to do as a green, you've got to recognize that boxed in thinking. Okay. I did the same thing actually at double. I said for a year, I'll never, ever, ever hit 30,000 GVA ever. let alone triple. And so you've got to recognize the green, like you take out because we do put boxes and we don't see, if there's not a clear path, we don't have that blind faith. You've got to like basically, recognize that. And then to combat it, affirmations like crazy, get to events like crazy, personal goal like crazy, but you have to have the self-awareness. So greens that are not self-aware, it's a struggle. But you've got to have the self-awareness of like, okay, I am literally doing self-limiting thinking about what is possible. And then you've got to do all the things that we know to basically change the lid that you're putting on yourself. So those are two things. Is one, don't sit in the past or in the present. Ask, what can I do better, and start taking action, and use that great green brain for all that strategy about what to change. And then secondly is to basically, really self-reflect on, are you putting caps or lids on what is possible? Because magic is possible in this business if you believe. There is nothing you cannot achieve. And I was literally watching peers do it while I was telling myself we couldn't do it on my team. And of course we didn't do it. So that was a huge lesson to me. I've had multiple periods like that in my business where my green kept me too close to what numbers were and not just taking action and dreaming big. So I hope that helps a little bit, Britt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I just love so much that you referred to that as like a green would call that just like, oh, I'm being realistic. Like I literally don't see how, but you refer to that as boxed in thinking. I think that was just so, so good. And I think that it's so important to remember that faith can override the facts. Like that's the whole point of faith, is that it can trump everything on paper. But I just love that you're just so transparent that literally is what that is. It's boxing yourself in, and putting that lid on yourself. Okay, so kind of going to our next point, what is your best tip for people that are, going through life? Maybe like they feel like they're getting on their horse, everything's going great, and then they feel like they're just getting knocked off. How do you, because I know that you're just someone who's really good at this. And I know a lot of it, you mentioned you've always been so self-disciplined, you've had the work ethic, but like how, when legitimate things are happening and emotions are going crazy, how do you control all that and still, keep your business going the way that, it should go? And just like, I guess just what I'm looking for is like, how do you learn to how have you taught yourself to just pivot, redirect as necessary?
Yeah. And just to be specific, just because Brittany knows my story well, like I've had many periods with my, with my marriage, then my divorce, obviously just the fears that a lot of people have if they come into this business in a financial crisis, that could be super scary, right? And distracting. And then for me, another child custody case this spring. Some people obviously deal with, this has happened on my team. Unfortunately, a lot this year, people deal with deaths in their family. So I think, the biggest thing is there are times where it's like a death or a very serious illness where you do have to, stop and maybe take stock, but life otherwise is going to happen, whether it's, the pipes burst or, you have a fight with your spouse or whatever, like all this stuff is going to happen no matter what. And so for me, I got to be honest, in a lot of ways, the business was my sanctuary. My friends in the business were the people that I felt like the safest with for a lot of my first few years. And so some of it was just that, you guys. So kind of embrace the community that you have here and the safe space that you have, and know that like the tribe that you have with Brittany's team, like, or frankly, the whole company, like everybody for the most part is so wanting everyone to be happy, successful, and their best version of themselves. So I have to say, honestly, like the culture of the company and of the teams was something that kept me focused, because I didn't want that to go away. Like it was making me happy, But I think the biggest thing for me is that I knew, like, here's where the green is a strong thing. Like I knew exactly what numbers I needed to hit. And I was like, I am not missing those numbers because I need that paycheck. And so it was really kind of that discipline came from the green a little bit, because I did use it to break down, like, I need to hit steps this week. Like I'm going for my steps of success every week. That might not be your goal, you guys. Like you might be trying to sign one distributor and one customer a week. That's okay. But whatever it is, like, holding on to that goal is mission critical if you have a why that you're trying to hit. this all gets a lot muddier if you don't know what your goal is. I mean, a lot muddier. So you've got to have, like, you've got to find that vision. Otherwise, when life happens, you guys, and you're treating this as a hobby, not as as something. I'm not even saying it needs to be a full-time job. I'm just saying you need to have a target or an aspiration or a why. It gets really hard for people to stay on track. So I think that was another intangible. Like, I always knew, Brittany, exactly what I'm like. I need this money so bad. You know, I know this is paying for this bill and that bill and that bill. And that really helped me stay on track. The last thing I'll say again, if there's, because I know you said there are a lot of greens on your team, like, we do have a gift of compartmentalization. Use that freaking gift. Okay. So I could go to work. I could have a fight with my spouse. Camby could be sick, but I could go to work and I could focus. And then 9 p.m. would hit, Camby would be asleep. This is my it works time. I could focus, even though all this other junk was going on, you know? And so compartmentalization, honestly, sometimes you have to do it, but that is as well, like, don't try to multitask. I mean, that's the other thing. You've got to have the intentional time for this. I know so many moms on my team struggle with this, but it's really, really hard to be progressing without intentional time. And even if that's 30 minutes. So I think it's a combination of those things, like just the culture of what we have, like, use that as a support system and to lift you up. And sometimes when you step away a little bit because you are distracted by life, you lose touch with that culture. You don't remember it, or you feel like, oh no, you've been left behind. No, you have not. Your team will always love you and embrace you. If you come to your leader and say, this is what I've been going on. This literally has happened to me an hour before this. I have a teacher on my team who is actually pretty high in the ranks, and she's going through, honestly, straight depression. So I just said, oh my gosh, girl, like, let's, you know, we love you. We're here for you. Don't worry about it. And you know, that if you're going through something like that, this is the place you want to be, because people are going to love you, but in combination with staying intentional with your time, and being really, really focused on what your goal is.
I love that so much. I love that you were, hitting on basically setting a standard. We've been talking a lot on our team about standards lately, and about how if you have no standard, it's really easy to not hit it because you didn't have it set to begin with. But if you, even like with your self-development, like giving yourself a goal, like, I'm going to read 1 book a month, I'm going to read 1 book a week, like whatever it is, like, have that goal. And like you said, with your steps to success, because I think that so often that is what people are missing, is they're just like, they're working, but there's really nothing, that they're aiming for. At the event we did in Dallas, John Alcala closed us out, and he did this like exercise, and everyone closed their eyes, and he said, I'm going to count to 5. And he said, what's your goal? He said, everyone's eyes were closed, and he said, speak your goal out. And he said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or maybe he counted down. I don't remember. And then he said, if you could not say what your goal was, or he didn't give you the prep time. I think I just totally butchered this, but yeah, he said, if you could not have said what your goal was on command in 5 seconds, you don't have a goal. Like, you don't know what it is. And that was like so eye-opening for so many people, because it's so true. If you can't clearly tell someone, you don't have it. So I love that was such a huge part of your tip with that. Okay, the last thing that I wanted to ask you was, what would just be your final piece of advice for like an action plan for someone to take from this Zoom? They're feeling inspired. They're like, okay, I just had a lot of aha moments. Like, what would be your tangible thing that you would give them to go and just, take with them to end the month strong?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I just want to reinforce what Brittany preaches and what she teaches. I mean, I have been planting so many seeds this summer, signed a lot of distributors. We've had people hitting Ruby that are new, all because I tell my story every day. And so one action I would have, I know that she preaches is a lot, but it's a huge common denominator that we have. I do message as well, but I only really message for DT candidates I'm really excited about that haven't messaged me. But just tell your story every day, you guys, right now. And getting ready for green carpet, I'm just staring at mine right now. I have a long list of PDTs. I actually went back through it today, cleaned it up, added some names that were in different scraps of paper. Have huge lists, because when green carpet announcements are hitting on the 21st, you want to just be able to sit down and bang out those messages. So get really organized for that over the next 10 days. Add as many names as you can to the list and tell your story every day. And it's honestly, I don't want to say it's simple. It's not simple, but it is like, it's kind of these boring basic things that are repetitive. That is how top leaders rise. It's because we're willing to do the most boring things every day, or maybe they're not always boring, but they're just repetitive. But that's the compound effect that leads to, mass success in network marketing. So that's what I would just say. Take advantage of the next 10 days to build that list as much as possible and be super organized.
I love it. It really is true. Like you said, you didn't want to call it simple. I think it is simple. I think it's not easy, but it is simple. Like there's no like magical thing, to do. It really is just those basic, like you said, not so fun things. So thank you so, so much, Mira. I really appreciate you getting on and your time. And I just know that everybody got so much from this, and we love you. We're so thankful for you taking the time with us tonight.
You bet. Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Bye, guys.